Okay, I think this thing is on. Welcome to Theory of Entertainment. This is my first live stream. I'm your man Lex. I'm going to be hosting today, and typically, what we talk about on this channel is the theory, right? There's no such thing as entertainment. Now, what I typically mean by that is anything that you watch, that you see, that you'll play or enjoy, any form of media, is not more than is more than just mere entertainment. It's actually a tool that you can use to learn awesome different things. Because that feeling that you get when you're entertained is actually your mind cueing you in on something important. Whatever that thing important is, that's what we're here to figure out. So, one of the things that came out recently this week is the Avengers Doomsday trailer. And to a lot of people, the Avengers Doomsday trailer is something that is entertaining or something that's special, right? And I want to kind of dive into the trailer here and go deep in detail, breaking it down and sort of looking at what are some of the things that we can learn from the movie in terms of the one that's coming up, but also as well help to see where this movie is headed. So, what is it that they're actually looking to show us? What themes are they talking about? What is it that we can actually expect to learn from the movie that's upcoming? So, with that said, I'm gonna get into this live stream here and talk a little bit about that. We're going to watch the trailer through once, and then I'm going to watch it again and pause in certain instances so we can, excuse me, so we can kind of go in detail here in terms of what it is that is awesome from the trailer and, not so much. With that said, that's enough yapping. Let's get to this trailer. All right. So, first live stream here. We'll see how this goes. Welcome to, okay. Let's share the screen, share audio. Boom. So you guys should be seeing what I'm seeing now, the Avengers Doomsday trailer here in full effect. So let's go ahead and play. Bless you.
Something's coming.
Okay. Yeah, wife just sneezed there. So, Anyways, I'm going to bring this back again. We're going to watch it straight through, and then I'm going to bring it back and actually get into more detail here.
Something's coming. Something we may not be able to deter. Before this day is done, we shall be faced with an unthinkable decision.
So, right off the bat, one of the things I love from this trailer is the shot selection and just the different angles and things that they'll go for. When we run it through again, I'll talk more about it. But man, the cinematography is on point. Yeah, I love it. I love every shot of the trailer. You could tell the detail is there with a fine tooth comb. They just went in and made sure every single shot, every single word, every single phrase is precise. And I'll get into it in a moment. Trust me.
I've fought with many warriors in my time. They were far stronger than all of us put together, and they died. They died facing enemies and threats that scared me far less than this one.
Such a great delivery.
Everything that they sacrificed will be for nothing if we do not stand together. Put aside your petty squabbles. And presume nothing except this. If you return, you will return as brothers and sisters. Mark my words. We're going to need a miracle.
Hey, pal.
It's not possible.
Okay, Infinity Vision. I absolutely love how serious Thor was in that scene, and and also how serious he is throughout the trailer itself. Again, his delivery with each and every single line, you can tell that Hemsworth came to bring it for this movie. And what I like as well is Doom's voice at the beginning of the trailer. You could tell that whoever's playing Doom came to bring it as well. And this is actually a very interesting thing because it feels as though because of who was on set and because of what was happening, there's like this special thing where everyone was, how do you put it, the chemistry seemingly for the whole team it's raising the floor. So it's like the worst actors will be performing better than they normally do, and some of the best actors have also brought their A game to the role. And you're sort of seeing that a little bit here with almost everyone that gets a chance to act in the trailer, because there's just, voiceover mostly, but you can tell here that everyone is taking this incredibly seriously. And you can also tell that Marvel really, really cares about the fans. And that's something that I feel like was lost the last, gosh, 7 years. It's been about 7 years since Endgame. And yeah, that has been lost. And what happened is Marvel decided to, I think, try to bring in other fans while neglecting the existing ones. And it looks like they've learned that lesson. In fact, I would argue since uh, Captain America Brave New World, that lesson was learned. And every subsequent movie that they've released, they have been focusing specifically on the fans and what the fans want in particular, with Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, and now we're getting Brand New Day in a couple of days. And yeah, everything they've been doing has been focusing in on what the fans want. One thing that Tom Holland said that was interesting is for his Spider-Man movie, he said they had a pulse on the fans and that they knew what the fans wanted and were making sure that they were delivering that. And one of the key things about Marvel early on, say pre Avengers, during Avengers' heyday and afterward, is that they really took the time to focus in on the fans. They really took the time to focus in on what the most niche people within the fandom actually wanted. A great example is the Thanos teaser at the end of Avengers 2012. Nobody knew who that was other than comic fans. Nobody knew what was going on other than the most, you know, the most hardcore of comic fans. Most people had no clue who Thanos was at the end of that movie. And yet, once we get him at the end of Infinity War and everyone becomes accustomed to Thanos, that is something else entirely. I still remember when Infinity War came out and all the people who were in the know knew what was going to happen, but everyone who wasn't in the know had no idea. And the people who were in the know didn't tell those that didn't that everyone was going to get dusted and basically snapped out of existence. And the shock in the theater and just everything that happened in those moments to me was something special. And what's really cool here is they have some of that again where there are certain things that they will put in even the trailer that are very, very, very deep cuts that only certain people will know what's going on and only certain people will know what's about to happen, right? And I think that's really, really cool and interesting. But just from seeing this trailer, to me, it tells me that, or at least confirms what I have already been seeing, in that Marvel is making a huge, huge push for their fans and saying, hey, this is what you guys wanted. Come on back. Come on back. There's so many examples of it. One example is Doom in this trailer. Let me bring it back real quick to Doom. Where is he? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. So, this is a great frame here of Doctor Doom, right? You can tell the attention to detail. Look at the chainmail in his suit. You can see the chainmail over here. There's a crest over here. There's so much detail put into the suit. It's one of the best suits we've seen, and we haven't even seen the suit fully, at least, within the movie, right? It's one of the best suits they've had. You could tell that attention to detail was put into this suit because previous Dooms had horrible suits. So something as simple as just this one frame tells you that they care, tells you that hey, all that nonsense we was doing before, we're done with it. It's time to come back. It's time to lock in. And that's exactly what they're doing here with this trailer. And you can see it in just these small little shots like this one, right? Again, this is a great shot as well, with Doom in the foreground and then stuff going on in the background. And those who know what's going on in the background. They know what that this plant thing is right here and what's going on within the scene. But with the trailer, there's some stuff that they're doing to where if you don't know anything about this movie, if you haven't been looking at any leaks or anything, it's just like, what's going on? What's happening here? Who's even the villain, right? So again, well, I mean, movie's called Doomsday. It's a little obvious who the villain may be, but nonetheless, right? They do such a great job with the little things here. And what that tells me is that Marvel is very serious about this movie and very serious on executing for their fans and for their target audience. And that can be seen here. And despite all of that, it's interesting to see the chatter online because people who would normally should be excited for this movie and should be looking forward to it, everyone's like skeptical. It's kind of like this thing where you're kind of afraid to be let down, like you're afraid to be let down by someone, so you're guarding yourself and just saying that this movie's bad or it's going to be bad or you're not sure if it's going to be good. And because of that, you're getting a lot of that going on within the fandom. I've seen that a lot, and it's interesting because it reminds me of, gosh, 14 years ago, back when the first Avengers movie came out, which was Avengers 2012. And back then, a lot of people don't realize how different the game was, how different the movie scene was, how different all this stuff was. Achoo! Thank you. So, yeah, a lot of people don't realize how different the game was back then. And what I mean is that you didn't have just billion-dollar movies happening here and there all willy-nilly. It was incredibly rare. Back then you had like Avatar, maybe one of the Dark Knights, and like, there was very few at the time. It wasn't a thing that normally happened. And even with the superhero movies, some of them would do well, some of them would bomb, but no one cared, essentially. The general public did not care. Not only that, Hollywood did not care for the most part. Green Lantern, I think at the time was about to flop or had just flopped. Most people didn't think that superhero movies were what they eventually became. People just thought it was this thing that would, was hard to make a good movie for and that they weren't good properties. And then once 2012 hit, it changed the entire game. There's that scene you get with all the Avengers in the circle. Hold on, let me pull that up real quick. So I'll just put in Avengers circle scene. Okay, so this one right here.
Time to suit up.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip ahead to this scene here, just for the sake of time. Okay, perfect. Right around here. So the reason why this scene is important, and then when I bring it up, is because prior to this movie and it happening, the thought process was, at least from nerddom, right, is that, yeah, I can't believe this movie's happening. We're going to have Thor and Captain America and Iron Man and Hulk all in the same movie. Everyone was like, this is crazy. This is the most amazing thing ever. This was everyone's notion, but at least within the fandom. But at the same time, we were all like, there's no way this movie's going to be any good. It's impossible to make this movie any good. Because back then we thought, hey, if you're making a movie, so much time is spent on building the main character, so much time is spent on focusing on just one dude, that it's impossible essentially to build a movie without having the supporting characters for that character and having multiple characters together. It just doesn't work. And back then, a lot of films that had too many characters in them obviously didn't work as well. So for good reasons, we thought the movie wouldn't work. But then something special happened when Avengers 2012 dropped. It worked. You could get these types of characters all on screen together, and this changed the game. not just because of the whole cinematic universe stuff that almost everyone tried to do, but it even changed the game in terms of cast sizes. Something like the Fast and Furious movies became not just mega hits, but had tons of people in them, right? And the reason why is because of this moment right here.
Hold on.
So this right here symbolically represents the like the time. These are people looking out at this movie and thinking this is not going to work, this is going to bomb, this is going to fail, too many characters, superheroes don't work on the big screen. Like there were voices speaking like this about this film. And this represents that. And to those naysayers, they said and that's the moment where cinema essentially changed from that moment forward, because leading up into the film, from that spot up until the rest of the movie, it becomes a completely different movie. The action just becomes completely over the top, far beyond what we've seen before at that time. And all the different collaborations between their powers and everything, it just, again, for that time, it was something we've never seen before. Back then, when Avengers 2012 came out, I believe I saw it in theaters 5 times. To this day, I think it's the only movie I've seen in theaters 5 times, right? Because it was that mind blowing in terms of what had happened. And we could not comprehend what was going to happen before it had happened. It just wasn't a thing. So I say all of that to say that right now, we're in a situation now where Avengers Doomsday is in a very similar spot. It's in a very similar position where we, well, before we get into Doomsday, after that moment with Avengers 2012, so from that moment all the way up until 2019, that span of movies is probably the most epic run in movie history. We're talking an average gross or an average revenue, right? Ticket sales, uh, box office. Forgetting the term here. The average box office for an MCU movie from 2012 to 2019 was $989,000. So basically $1 billion a movie is what they were putting out on average, right? In terms of the ratings, pick your rating machine. It was between a 7 and a 9 across the board, and comparatively with the rest of the industry, this was by far and away in like nothing could touch these movies. Like this was an untouchable run from 2012 to 2019. Now we have a lull, post COVID, 2020 all the way up until now. And interestingly enough, that period is also 7 years. So we have a 7 year period where the average movie is making almost $1 billion. The ratings are through the roof on almost all the movies. We then have a 7 year period where we're basically the worst, the industry has been in. And then after that, we now have what we're leading up to, which is Avengers Doomsday. Because a lot of people are looking at Doomsday as, hey, if this movie doesn't work, superheroes are done. It's over and done with. There's no more superhero movies. We just saw Supergirl come out and absolutely bomb. So it's a situation similar to, I guess back then we had, Green Lantern and a couple of movies from DC bomb as well when they came out back then. But again, the atmosphere is the same in terms of people have lost their trust or their faith in these movies. They don't have them. Hollywood as well has lost their trust and their faith in these movies as well, similar to that scene there. The difference now, though, is that similar to how when you have a movie, and in the movie, your hero sort of develops their powers, develops their abilities. You have that midpoint of the movie where you have the montage of them beating all these villains. And then you have that one point. It's like It's right before the end, at the end of Act Two, where you just hit that dip, and it's the low point in the film, right? It's the lowest point possible for the main character. And they have to take the time to learn from their mistakes and bring those lessons forward into the third act. And in the third act is when you start to see the hero at their best. In the third act is when you start to see the hero at their best. 7 years from 2012 to 2019, we had some of the best superhero. 7 years later, second act, the end of the second act. We're in the end of the second act right now. We're in the end of that second 7 year period. And the hero is at their lowest point. In this case, the MCU is at their lowest point. And then what happens, right? At the end of the third act, the hero comes out the shadows and is able to take what he's learned from the depths of his sorrow and take that into the final act where you have this huge epic battle and all this stuff happens, right? And that version of the hero that you see at the very end of the movie is much greater than the version of the hero that you see in the first or second act, which tells me that with what we're about to see with Doomsday, it's going to be a 2012 level epic moment. But what we get after that most likely is going to be greater than what we had even in the largest heyday of Marvel back in 2012 to 2019. That is what we're potentially in for over the next few years, which to me is amazing and exciting, simply because there's so much to learn from a great film and so little to learn from a horrible one. And being able to have great superhero movies in particular is awesome because, yeah, there's just so much that you can learn and pick up from. So I'm excited, as you can tell, for this movie because I do think that we're in a very special moment in time. Very, very special one. There are very few moments like this in cinema history. This is a very special one. 2012 was a very special one as well. 2019 was a very special one as well. Yeah, it's very interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens this year and what happens with this film. But in particular, I do believe that from what we've seen from this trailer alone, that Marvel is on track to doing what the naysayers do not think that they're going to do. And I'm interested to seeing what is that Avengers circle moment in this movie, and if they're able to pull it off. But if there's anyone you can trust with a Marvel property, it's the Russo brothers, bar none by far. Every single film they've had in the MCU has knocked it out of the park. And one of the things I want to talk about in here is that every movie they've had has been able to, I believe, subvert expectations in a good way. Uh, at least, yeah, most of them. We'll get into it here, but they've been able to do that very, very well. And I think one of the things that they're looking to do with this film, especially, is to subvert our expectations in this property right here. So, yeah, let's see. Let's get into the rewatch now as I get into detail, shot by shot, of the trailer and to kind of break down some of the important stuff here. So, first shot is Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. X-Men are back. X-Men are back in the MCU. Now, I do want to talk about this briefly. The first Avengers movie was, let's just bring in a couple different heroes from different movies and bring them together into one movie. Second Avengers was, I guess, more of that. It's kind of like Avengers 2. Now, the third Avengers movie was, hey, let's get the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy to now come together. And that was sort of the, the shift with that movie. The next Avengers movie, which is Endgame, is like, hey, how about we cash in on every single piece of nostalgia we've built over the last 10 plus years into one movie? That's basically that movie. And now this Avengers movie, which I believe is this number 5? Yeah, I think this is number 5. This one's all about connecting Fox and Disney together, essentially, which, mind you, we've been waiting for this for, oh my goodness, 10 plus years. So they're finally giving it to the people. And it starts off right here with this specific shot. So let it continue here. So we're at the school with the gifted youngsters.
Something's coming.
and I gotta pause it right here. So something's coming. You hear the voice. You hear the voice. And hearing this voice, I'm just like, oh man, unrecognizable. Completely unrecognizable. I don't know who this is. If they didn't release that stuff at Comic Con, whenever they did, and we just saw this, I mean, it would be impossible to keep this thing a secret. But if they tried to, they almost could. With how good he maxed his voice here, if they actually kept it a secret that the guy was back, oh man, I mean, oh man, that'd be too much, right? That alone would. I kind of wish they kept it a secret, to be honest. But I guess they were so desperate at the time for good press that they had to, announce it. But man, if they actually kept it under wraps that the homie was back, oh man. And then he comes in with this voice, and then you go into the theater not knowing who Doom is, and oh man, that would have been something special. But hey, they didn't do it. But anyways, the voice, incredible. Now what he says is something's coming. Specifically here, it looks like this looks like some sort of a sphere and something exploding. So looks like maybe a planet that's in front of Professor X here, and it's blowing up in front of him. Now those who know what's going on, and I'm not going to spoil any of that here, but it is interesting that when he's saying something's coming, what he's talking about specifically here is these, you know, incursions that have been going on throughout the MCU, and we're bringing in sort of the multiverse stuff, which I don't know if I'm going to get into a multiverse rant right now. I probably shouldn't. Let's just say I'm not a fan of multiverse stuff in general, and I think most people are not at this point as well. My reasoning is a bit different, but yeah, in this shot, he's mentioning something's coming. You see the stuff happening in the background with the sun and all that, or not the sun, the planet that looks like it's blowing up in front of them. Oh wait, hold on, is that? Yeah, it looks like clouds actually. Yeah. So one thing I want to add as well before I continue is I said in the trailer that every single line and every single shot are lined up perfectly. So when he's saying something's coming and then you see an incursion, he's saying that an incursion is coming. It's not that obvious if you're just watching it quickly first glance and you're not remembering incursions offhand, but right then and there he says something's coming, the incursion's coming. Like, this is what I'm talking about. The attention to detail, they're not sort of just handing it to you, right? They're really meticulously crafting every part of this. I love the way the Russos do their ads leading into a movie, because you think it's going to go one way and then it oftentimes goes the complete other direction. And we'll get into that later as we sort of progress throughout this trailer. Excuse me. And yeah, let's continue on here.
Something we may not be able to deter. Before this day is done, we should be faced with an unthinkable decision.
Okay, so right there, he says, before this day is done, we'll be faced with an unthinkable decision. It's something that's coming that you can't deter, right? So this right here is our first hint at some of the themes that are going to be flowing through this movie. He says unthinkable decisions. So we're going to have themes in this movie surrounding decision making and unthinkable decisions, and what do you do in certain circumstances when it comes to making, the proper decision here. And the way the Russos tend to weave their themes into their films is that they don't focus just on one character. They have multiple characters having to deal with that same theme. And they do this very, very well. And I like that aspect of it too. I think that's a good way to handle themes in general, is because you can get multiple perspectives on the same theme. And when you get those multiple perspectives, the case or the argument that they're making in the movie is going to be a better case and a better argument. So to give an example here, if you guys remember Captain America Civil War, right? If you remember when that movie came out, uh, you had, all the stuff happening with the Avengers fighting each other, all of that. And that was kind of like The hook. The hook is heroes fighting heroes. So you think that's what the movie's about. But the reality is the movie was actually about revenge and vengeance, and how vengeance is something that consumes you, right? And there's a part where you know, the late great Chadwick Boseman mentions, uh, as T'Challa, he says, "Vengeance is something that consumes you. It's consuming them. It has consumed you, and I've stopped letting it. I'm not going to let it consume me." Right? It's like you have the character speak out. This is the theme, and this is how we believe that plays out. Right? And the message is essentially that vengeance is something that consumes you, and that you shouldn't allow it to consume you. That it's not something that is good. It's something that you need to get over, and that's a very strong theme, not just for adults, for children. I have a daughter right now, and I'm having to teach that exact lesson, right? Of how when someone does something to you, that you cannot allow that spirit of vengeance to linger. You cannot allow that spirit of vengeance to consume you. It eats away at you. It transforms you into something that's evil and that's wrong and that's wicked, and that you can't allow that to happen. That's a very important, poignant point. And when you look at vengeance, it could be as simple as holding a grudge against someone. You don't have to, follow through on it, but if the grudge is still there, that wickedness is eating up your heart. And the movie is speaking into that with that theme. Now, what they do in Civil War is interesting, is that they don't just leave you with that theme. What they also do is they connect it with multiple characters. So you see Tony and how Tony deals with vengeance and what his response to it is. And he doesn't respond well. And you see that in the scene. You have the villain of the movie, what's his name? Zemo, which till this day, Zemo is still one of my favorite MCU villains. Which, another point, there's shades of Zemo I see in Doom here, which is interesting. I believe they're going to combine Zemo and Thanos and sort of mix them together into this, ultimate villain, essentially. And yeah, anyways, Zemo, he's also being consumed by vengeance, and you see what happens to him with that. Whereas other characters within the film are able to sort of overcome that theme, right? And that's very, very important to note, is that they're using that theme with multiple characters here. So in this point where they're saying, hey, you're going to be faced with unthinkable decisions, right? So what do you do when you have to face those decisions? And these themes are going to be flowing through. I think throughout this rest of this trailer, you're going to be introduced with some of those groups, and how those groups in particular deal with that thought process and deal with those themes. And yeah, so we're going to continue here. Before that as well, we already talked about Doom. Looks great, looks fantastic. The cinematography, again, they do such a great job at making sure that you're focusing on the right thing. Now, in this shot specifically, you would think that you're supposed to be focusing in on Doom here, as he's taking up most of the screen. But I believe what they actually want you to focus on is this right here, because of its placement on the screen. For those of you who are familiar with the golden ratio and how that works, and how it sort of creates this line that curves inward into something here. Let me see. Yeah, I won't get into it now, but based on that, reading this shot, it tells me that something is of note right here that we should be paying attention to. I will not give it away because I don't want to spoil too much from the trailer for those who are not into getting into spoilers that way. But there's something here that points to what's happening here, when it's happening within the film, and multiple other things. Anyways, I'm going to continue here. It's interesting with Avengers Tower. The A is all the way down here instead of all the way up here, which I don't know if that's supposed to signify something, because this group of Avengers, the new Avengers, are notoriously mid, and the A is in the middle of the building. So who knows if that's supposed to mean something? I might be reading too much into it, but maybe I'm not. And mind you, I actually like the team a lot, but I think there's something. Just this small one detail here is I think pointing to something as well.
fought with many warriors in my time.
Yeah, so our first shot of the Fantastic Four in the trailer here, we can see Thor in the background as well. And Thor says he's fought with many warriors in the past. Uh, this being a group of warriors that maybe he's fought with in this film. Who knows? Well, prior to this scene.
You're far stronger than all of us put together.
All right, so this is a shot we have to stop on for sure. So he says he's fought with many warriors in the past, far stronger than most of the people here put together. Now, to be fair, Thor by himself is stronger than everyone in that room put together, except for, our boy Bobby, right? But other than him, yeah, he could basically, destroy by himself. He could destroy the whole room, right? So it's not much of a statement there, but nonetheless, what you have here is three teams, right? And with those three teams, they're having a conversation with Thor and they're discussing specifically what's supposed to happen here. So I think this is pretty early on in the movie. Now, one thing I want to highlight is when you have teams, usually those teams are brought together by a unifying principle, right? Whatever that principle might be, there's something that binds that team together. And a lot of these Avengers movies are about teams that normally do not come together, but because of one unifying principle, they are then forced to come together. And typically, that principle usually is surrounding some sort of avenging, right? So, in that first Avengers movie, 2012, everyone's fighting, everyone's squabbling, and Coulson dies. In Coulson's death, the principle here is we must avenge our fallen comrade. And that principle is what brings them together in order for them to do what they have to do. Now, what's interesting here is we're going to have principles at play surrounding that theme that they talked about of we're going to have to make unthinkable decisions. And in this group, I think that there are members that are going to be split up potentially based upon how they want to deal with those unthinkable decisions and how they feel it should be handled and how they feel matters, right? And I'm very interested to see how they're going to do that and how that split is going to happen between New Avengers, Fantastic Four, and I guess the new Avengers, government. I don't know what they're gonna call Sam Wilson's Avengers here, but yeah, I mean, there's something that's going to be unifying each of the teams, and those things, I guess we'll have to wait and see, right?
And they died. They died facing enemies and threats that scared me far less. And threats. They died facing enemies and threats.
Okay, so he's saying they died. As he's saying they died, he's showing the Wakandans, which I'm like, oh man, are they gonna kill them off again? Because at the end of, I think it was Infinity War, not all the Wakandans, but I mean the mains were gone, right? During the snap, except for Okoye, I think was the only one left that we, as an audience really cared about. So when he's saying death and dying, I'm wondering if that's relating to these guys as well, because it looks like they are at the bottom of the ocean potentially, because that's the guy's throne, which we knew was at the bottom of the ocean. We see later in the trailer that the seas are split for some reason. So is it the case then that this is sort of alluding to them dying, or maybe they're in a limbo already somewhere in this space, right? We don't know that, but it's interesting that that's brought up with these guys. And another set of groups here, you have the Talokan, and then you also have the Wakandans. And if we remember back in that movie, there were two philosophies at play as well, two principles going at it. Well, the Talokan, I think, believe that they wanted to be a little more isolationist and essentially not interact with the world at all. From what I can remember, it's been a while since I watched that movie. And then the Wakandans were more willing to interact with the world, integrate with them. But because they were willing to do that, it now put is it Talokan? I think they're called Talokan. The water people, it put them in danger as well. So again, you have these different philosophies going at each other, these different principles combating each other. And with each of the characters and with each of the groups, they're sort of representing each of those things in some way. So it looks like there's some conflict here between them in terms of how they're going to want to deal with this. What it makes me think about is a potential, what's the word here, betrayal coming from what's his face's name, the feather serpent guy. I'm forgetting his name right now, but this guy here, I mean, he's a snake. He's a snake. So something tells me that he's probably going to betray the group in some way, and it would actually make sense for him to do it because of the principles that he represents and his people represent, which is protecting oneself at all costs, regardless of those that are around you, regardless of other nations or other people. This idea of, our people first, let's protect us first and let's ignore others. I think that's definitely going to be a theme that plays out in this film of, is it best to protect one's own well-being at the detriment of another person's or another group's well-being? This aspect of, should we protect our universe while also then potentially disrupting or destroying another universe, right? I think that those themes are going to come in play here, and I think that those are going to fit in a way to what is these unthinkable decisions, right? What does that look like? And I think that one of those unthinkable decisions, some of those unthinkable decisions will be thought of from Namor in particular. And I think that's where some of this conflict will be, in that, let's say, Shuri and the Wakandans and the Black Panthers, that is something that would actually cause them to split. That they might want to preserve all the multiverse, while they may only want to preserve their own aspect of the multiverse. And those are very grand themes, right? That are going to go at each other. And the movie at least is going to try and showcase which one of them is better, more important, or matters more, right? Who's going to win, right? Who's going to win the battle? Is it going to be the isolationist that wants to focus only on their own people, or is it going to be the one who wants to reach out, bring together multiple forces and protect the universe, essentially, right? But or the multiverse. Ugh, man, again, multiverse stuff, right? So this scene to me speaks to that a lot, and the trailer to me speaks to that a lot as well.
Threats that scared me far less than this one.
So threats that scared me far less than this one. This is where they're announcing it right in the trailer. This one being this threat being this guy looming in the background with the cloak. In case you don't know who it is, it's Doctor Doom. It's Doctor Doom. And that's the threat, right? So they're talking about it in that sense. But another way to look at it is, the threat may actually be the incursions. Excuse me. They were careful not to use the word incursions at all. They were careful not to use multiverse stuff at all. And I believe the reason for that is because Marvel knows that people are sick of multiverse. They know that we ain't trying to hear that multiverse stuff. They know that people are like that, it's a mess. So for this film in particular, it's almost like they're hiding that aspect of it. I think what's happening here with Thor's speech is he's actually speaking to that group of people that are there in the circle, and he's talking about the multiverse threat and what's happening with the multiverse threat. I also believe, and now this one here is, I don't know if I should reveal it or not because it's not fully within the trailer, but I'll reveal it anyway. I do believe that the voice that we hear at the beginning, which I believe is this guy right here, that voice is also speaking to the same group of people. Uh, and we'll get into that. We'll see sort of how it happens. But I do think that there's something going on there, because he's saying that we will be faced with unthinkable decisions. Who's we? We haven't seen him in the trailer with anyone. So the only people that we could be is either him and the Avengers we saw, or him and the X-Men. Either one. It could be either or. And I'm curious to see which it's going to be, actually, because both would be interesting. Either or. I think I like the X-Men one better, though. If you have a situation where Doom shows up in the X-Men's world and is sort of prepping them potentially for this stuff that's happening here, and then gets them riled up to fight these guys, and until eventually they stop the fight. That I think will be a really nice angle, and it will actually showcase Doom's duplicity, right? I think that would be really cool, and it will. Yeah, I think I like that idea of it, but we'll have to wait and see because there's still so much we don't know, but we think we have a good idea about. Anyways, with that said, let's move on here. Also, another great shot, and let me go back to the shot really quickly. Okay, so right there, the focus is supposed to be on this, and you can tell again because I don't want to get into the ratio stuff now, but this is very much the focus of the scene. However,
this one,
right there, it shifts over to Doom very quickly in the sense that the axe starts to move more to the right and then blurs, and then you see, Doom coming in frame there. Oh yeah. Okay, so okay, so easily my favorite X-Men character since day one. I'm talking 90 whatever, 93, 95. I don't know when I saw the series. No, it wasn't out in 93. Let's say 95, 96. Whenever I first saw the series, I don't know why. Maybe because he's wearing blue, but all of them had some blue on them, so I don't know. There was just something about Scotty back then where I was just like, that's the dude. That's the dude. That he didn't have a good run on the show in the sense that they didn't really focus on him, but something just drew me to Scott. And even the X-Men movies that came out later on, he didn't get his due, he didn't get his shine, but I was still like, hey, Scott's the man, right? And then finally, X-Men 97 comes out, and some other stuff is being released now with Marvel Rivals, and Scott is, more prominent. But I really like this character, could not stand the costumes in the old X-Men franchise. For all the movies, I could not stand the costumes. Finally, they actually went with this, with this costume here. I'm surprised and shocked, to be honest, that we're even seeing this. Like this is something else. This is the stuff I'm talking about, where it's like we've been waiting 10 plus years for this, and that's what I mean is like we don't understand the magnitude of what's going to happen when this movie is released. I'm anticipating 2 to 3 billion minimum. I'm talking minimum because there's just so much going on in this trailer. There's so much going on in the film alone. There's already going to be so much going on. It's going to be so much that you can't just sit down and watch it once and you're done. No, there's too much to pick up on. But what's awesome is, and what I love about superhero stuff is that it's kind of designed that way in an interesting way, where you have over the top characters, you have over the top plots, you have over the top dialogue, over the top drama, right? All these things are all the way over the top. And then you have these interesting low points where it's like these dramatic scenes, like where Avengers, like those dramatic scenes, right? They contrast everything else that's over the top, and they contrast it very, very well. And it's actually those dramatic scenes that make this stuff, that glues it together, that makes it work. So from set piece to set piece, you have those lower, quiet moments within the film, and those really make these Avengers movies. A great example, I'll give two off the bat. You have Avengers Age of Ultron, that whole scene where they're all playing with the hammer and doing all the jokey, laughy stuff and all that kind of stuff. That scene right there is such a pivotal scene in that film. It makes that movie work, right? And it's so noticeable because it contrasts the extreme action that you have within the film. Another thing as well is another scene I should say is that Civil War scene where they're all sitting and arguing about the different stuff that's going on. And there's all those memes as well. I don't know if you've seen them of like the guys watching the thing on the screen. The Avengers are watching something on the screen, and it's like I don't know, a meme of something. I'm not going to search it now just because completely off topic. But the point I'm making is that you have these scenes that are, in terms of visuals, in terms of plot, in terms of all these different things, they're very, very much dialed down. And because they're so different from these huge set pieces, they actually stand out more. So you're actually able to make those scenes even more special and even more memorable. So in a superhero movie, what you end up having is these great quiet scenes, right? That rivals a lot of dramas. But then you also get these amazing over the top action scenes that also destroy any, action movie that's out there. So it's this ultimate flick where you get the drama and you get the action, you get the comedy all in one when executed correctly. In this trailer, at least, what we're getting is some of that action and getting some of that over the top stuff. And we're getting a small, tiny smidgen hint of the drama with what we're getting with Doom and his conversation and his explanation of things. And I'm looking forward to this here because I really do believe that they're about to cook something special. And back to Scott here, I like the way he moves. I don't know if you see it here, but he has like this way where he almost glides into the scene, right? And he's sort of quick. I'm wondering how they're gonna use the optic blast in different ways, but just even the way he moves as a character is like a great detail.
Then this one.
Bring back to how he moves. Right there. See, so it's really quick, but it's just like it's like this quick dash, sort of like you get from fighting games. Which reminds me, the Marvel Tokon fighting is coming out. Yeah, that's coming out soon. I haven't seen any Cyclops stuff yet, but they better get Cyclops into that Marvel Tokon game because yeah, I'm really looking forward to that game as well. Anyway, into the next clip. Okay. All right. Love this. The effects, this is a great shot because it shows you that although the special effects are very much unfinished, they are very polished. So one of the things that we forget about this movie is that it was already supposed to have come out. They pushed the movie back, I think, 6 months or more, right? It was a heavy pushback in terms of how far they pushed back the film. But they already had all the stuff that they filmed, and they're able to actually go in and refine special effects even more, refine the scenes even more, refine the script even more. So when you're seeing this trailer, you're seeing things that are unfinished, let's say, but they're still looking pretty good and pretty crisp in terms of the effects. I'm talking about, the rings and gambit and all that kind of stuff. And what I like here is what I mentioned earlier, right? This is a great shot of like a versus. Like you could just put like a versus thing right here for like a fighting game. But one of the things that a lot of people, I guess, tend to not realize about these kind of movies, those that are, less interested in them, let's say, is that whenever you have fights happening, it's not just a fight that's happening, it's an argument. It's an actual argument. It's two different philosophies going head to head. But rather than listening to the arguments on their own, you're actually getting a visual representation of them going at each other. And typically, whoever wins the argument is also the one who wins the fight. I'll go back to Civil War, right? And in Civil War, Tony has an argument. Steve has an argument. Iron Man is the better, I guess, more powerful hero, right? He's more overpowered, whatever you want to say, compared to Captain America. But Cap has the better argument. So who wins the fight? The one with the better argument. And it makes sense thematically. If they had Iron Man win that fight in that movie, it wouldn't have worked at all, unless Iron Man had the better argument. So when you have a fight happening between two characters, it's not just that they're fighting, it's philosophies, principles going at each other and seeing who's going to win. Right now, we're looking at a fight between the X-Men and the Avengers, or yeah, new Avengers. I don't know what they're gonna call it themselves here, but let's just say Avengers versus X-Men. And in Avengers versus X-Men, shout outs to the comic for those who have read it, which also is two philosophies going at each other as well, right? What is the philosophy of the X-Men here? And then what is the philosophy of the Avengers here? And why are they then clashing? Because there could be a chance that the reason why they're clashing is because of those ideologies. There also could be a chance that it's because they're tricked, whatever the case might be. But I think that something's happening here where those philosophies are coming to a head. Based on who's going to win the fight, I have some details on what I believe is going to happen within the film. I'm not going to get into it here, but based upon what those are, and I'm talking specifically about the philosophies of the different teams, I believe that based on just that argument alone, that the X-Men will actually lose this fight. based off of what I'm hearing, at least from what the X-Men's philosophy may or may not be within the film. Again, we'll see. It's not confirmed with any trailers or anything with Marvel yet, so I'm not gonna reveal that. But I do think that within this fight right here, that the X-Men will end up losing. Although it could also be broken up by something else. Who knows? Actually, wait. It's definitely going to be broken up by something else. Now that I think about it, but yeah, like I said, I'm not going to reveal what I know at least yet. But what I want to talk about with this shot in particular, and just this whole scene, is it's not just the teams going at each other. There's differing philosophies, differing points on the theme that was established earlier within the thing, which is unthinkable decisions, and we are going to have to make unthinkable decisions. And what is it that the X-Men are doing with those unthinkable decisions? And then what is it that the Avengers are looking to do as well with these unthinkable, circumstances that are forcing these types of decisions? I love the little personality there from Gambit, and then Shang-Chi's just like hard nose. But yeah, so a lot of sculptures as well in the mansion here, from what I'm seeing. Like these Greek sculptures that are just hanging around the mansion for whatever reason.
Everything that they sacrificed will be for nothing.
Okay, so right there he says everything that they sacrificed will be for nothing. Earlier he was talking about people he's fought with that have died. Who are those people? Who are the people that who are the people that
everything that they sacrificed will be for nothing,
that had died? Who are the people? He's one of them. So everything they sacrificed would have died. So like I said, every single shot, every single line of dialogue from this trailer is just perfectly lined up with the shots. So he's saying specifically about everything that Loki sacrificed, for example, would be for nothing. Specifically, what did Loki sacrifice? Well, I gotta watch the Loki series to actually see the full thing, right? Which I will do leading up to this. What I can do actually is I'll watch the Loki series. I won't get into it just now. But anyways, I gotta watch the Loki series to see what happens. But apparently there's a sacrifice that happens, right? And specifically here, those sacrifices will be for nothing if they don't do what they're about to do. And one of the themes of what was it? Avengers Infinity War, right? Is sacrifice in particular, and that you have to make sacrifices in order to be able to get what it is that you want, or to accomplish what it is that you're looking for. And throughout that film, again, Russos are so good at this. You have multiple characters who are forced to make sacrifices. You have Quill, who's forced to shoot Gamora, and he doesn't do it. You have who is it? You have Wanda, who's supposed to sacrifice Vision. She doesn't do it. You have the Avengers, they're supposed to sacrifice Vision as well. Early on, they refuse to do it. Cap specifically says no, they're not going to do it. So here you have all these different themes, right? All these different principles from these characters that are being executed within the film, saying that, hey, we were not willing to sacrifice this. We will not sacrifice this. And then the one person in the film that's willing to sacrifice everything and everything that he loves ends up winning, right? Because he's able to go and sacrifice absolutely everything, including, oh my goodness, I don't even want to say it, right? But that's how crazy it is what he was able to sacrifice to get what he wanted in that movie. And that's the theme, right? The theme of that is what one is willing to do with those sacrifices. And it's a part one of part two, so I have to actually look at how Endgame sort of answers those themes, right? And sort of, brings them into balance, because it does end in a particular way where they're slightly off balance there. But either, funny, balance as all things should be. Anyways, that's like one of my most quoted lines from the MCU. But yeah, so I say that to say again that the Russos in particular are really good at taking a theme, executing upon that theme, and then with that execution, they're able to have that theme be showcased with multiple different characters. So I think they're going to be able to do that here with this film, which is again what makes me real excited. But let's continue on here.
Nothing if we do not stand together.
Okay, so he says, if we do not stand together, what do you have? Avengers and Wakandans standing together with the Fantastic Four, symbolizing and representing them coming together. What you're also seeing is this, again, weird splitting of waters things that's happening in the background, which I'm not sure what that is. But given that the water is standing up, it tells me that the Talokan may be in the area as well, and there's something happening within this area that I'm not sure about just yet, but there's some fighting that happens around here as well. So I think that again reflects this aspect of conflict and how some of the characters are going to side on one side of the equation and some of the characters are going to side on a different side of the equation, and we're actually going to see that play out with some more fights, or I should say arguments, whatever you want to look at it, however you want to look at it.
Put aside your petty squabbles.
Okay, so put aside your petty squabbles. So he's talking about again where you, and this is actually a very strong theme within almost every Avengers movie, which is this aspect of the team is supposed to come together, right, and be a team, but when they aren't able to come together, when there's petty squabbles, when there's arguments and disagreements, they're unable to win and they're unable to come together, which you see happen in Avengers Infinity War. Because of the petty squabbles that they had, they were not together and they lost against Thanos, which goes actually back to one of those themes I mentioned real earlier in this live stream, which is that you have these principles at odds, right? One principle is let's focus only on ourselves, let's isolate ourselves. And then you have another principle that's like, hey, no, let's not isolate ourselves, let's work together with the world to come up with a solution for the world, or I guess the multiverse in the context of this movie, right? And when I think about that, it makes me realize that Avengers in general, one of the themes of these movies is that you have to work together toward a common goal, and that you can't achieve that common goal just by yourselves. You have to come together. You have to put aside petty squabbles in order to come together and be victorious. And I think what's going to happen within this film is that Doom, similar to Zemo, is going to be able to successfully split apart these different factions and these different groups effectively enough to where then they will not be able to stop him, right? They will not be able to stop whatever it is that he's trying to do. And that's going to go again with this Avengers theme that runs through every single Avengers movie, which is this aspect of needing to come together as a group to fight the greater good, let's say. In the first Avengers movie, they have to come together to avenge Coulson, right? In the second movie, what happens is Ultron tries to break them apart using Wanda Maximoff, and they actually end up getting scattered. And they're able to come back together towards the end of the movie and win that. Leading up into Infinity War, the team is actually split up because of a petty squabble. Maybe it's not that petty, but it's still an issue with Tony and Steve, and that splits them up. After they're split up, you then get Infinity War, where you get to see the result of that theme play out. Where if you don't work together, you fall apart and you lose. And then in Endgame, what happens? Tony and Steve have to come together. The Avengers come back together, and through working together, they're able to reverse things and bring things back. So this is a constant theme through every Avengers movie. And I think what we're going to see here is we're going to have multiple different universes now that need to come together in order to work together in order to beat the villain, which will be Doctor Doom. And what's going to happen, at least in this film, is that they're not going to be able to do that potentially because of what Doom is setting up in terms of planting these weeds throughout the multiverse, right? At least that's what I think he's going to do here, and I think that's what's being hinted at ever so slightly within this trailer. And that's really, really interesting when you think about it. It's really, really interesting. I like that a lot, especially with this aspect of multiverse in general, because I don't like multiverses, but this actually uses that theme very well as well. Because the theme of the universes coming together and the theme of the teams coming together sort of coalesce in an interesting way. Although the universes coming together represents a doomsday, right? But or in the Avengers side of things, if they don't come together, it is Doomsday. So it's like this weird, and by that I mean if they don't come together, they lose, right? So it's like this weird reversal of the multiverse thing, in this weird, interesting way, which I wonder how that's going to play out. With that said, check Mystique out. In this shot here, I will say it is a cool shot. I love the physical acting from Rebecca Romaine here in terms of how she's able to flip up the baton with one hand, catch it with the other, really upset, really angry. It looks like she's looking to kill here. This looks like a serious fight. And I do like those aspects of things. I do like, I don't mind what they did with the hair and stuff. My issue with this design has everything to do with Bryan Singer's original design, more so than what they're doing, in the sense that his original design was, I think, absolutely horrible. When you look at the comic Mystique, and then you look at, even the TV show Mystique, and you look at what Singer did with his, absolutely horrible. The stuff on the face, all that, it's too, let me try to explain how the magic works kind of a thing, where it's like you don't need to explain how it works, just have the character look cool, right? Rule of cool. You know what I mean? So because he's trying to explain it with the scales, and the scales morphing and folding and all those things, you had the character look the way that she did. And also, I guess he was trying to explain that she creates clothing with her scale, so she doesn't need clothing. Okay, fine. The character still looked cool with the dress, the white dress and boots that they had her in from the comics. And with this, it's kind of like an homage to the comic look, right? In that sense, where they do have her have some sort of white outfit here. I've seen the full suit, and compared to the comic one, it's not even close. So this is one of the things I'm just like, but you can't have everything, right? Sometimes with some of these movies. So if you get a bad suit here, but we get all the other stuff that I've talked about, and these themes sort of are woven in really, really well, then hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So with that said, let us bring this back right quick, and let's see this.
Put aside your petty squabbles.
That's the other thing too. I do really like uh Yelena Belova within the series. Thunderbolts is one of my favorite MCU movies. I do need to do a video on it at some point, because I have a lot, and I mean a lot, to say on it. One of the things I like about the theory of entertainment is that whenever, the better quality a piece of media is, like a piece of, like a show, TV show, movie, game, whatever, the higher quality it is, the more wisdom you can actually derive from it, and gain from it and learn from it. So specifically with Thunderbolts, there's a ton in there. Like there's just oodles of stuff, uh, especially compared to some of their more recent outings. So I do want to get into that at some point. Eventually, I'll be able to. Maybe I'll do a little road to Doomsday here, where I'll get into a lot of these different movies. So yeah, with that, so let's continue.
Presume nothing except this. If you return.
Okay, so he says presume nothing except this. So the presume nothing part, I think that's important, because I do think there's going to be some shiftiness, trickery going on, because it's the Russos. They've done it in almost all their movies, where they just pull one on you, a fast one that you didn't expect. They do it almost all the time. So I'm almost certain there's going to be something like that there. Doctor Doom as a character, part of the principles he represents is mischief, is magic, is trickery, is mysticism. So you best believe there's going to be some of that in there. And again, some of the best twists in their films have been by taking what you expect from a superhero film and subverting it in an awesome way. I think the best one, again, is a Captain America Civil War, where you're expecting all the heroes to come together because there's this bigger, larger fight that's forcing them to come together. To the extent in which the very same year that movie came out, there was another superhero movie called Batman v Superman where they were also fighting, and they also had a threat called Doomsday. Oh my goodness. I think his name was Doomsday, yeah. So, oh, this is so so they had a threat called Doomsday, and that threat brought the three heroes together, and that was telegraphed from like the first trailer. You knew exactly what was going to happen in the movie, and some people like the movie, some people hate it, but it was completely telegraphed. The Russos, with their trailer, they did the same thing. They're like, oh, the Avengers are going to be fighting each other, blah 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 blah, and something is going to then bring them together. That was essentially what you're expecting. But then when you watch the movie, even in the movie, you're also getting this idea of, oh yeah, there's this bigger threat, it's Zemo, and you find out what the bigger threat is that's supposed to bring them together, and you're like, oh yeah, of course they're going to come together. And then when you eventually get to the final scene, right, or the final few scenes where they get to the place and they're expecting to fight the super soldiers, because they thought, we have to stop these super soldiers, let's come and work together. And Tony and Steve actually come and work together. They go and they show up with the spot where the super soldiers are, and then you get the twist that he kills the super soldiers, and that's not actually what's going to bring them together. In fact, the movie is set up to break them apart. And it's like, what? That subverted the expectation entirely. But what's interesting and amazing about it is that it was completely set up entirely from the beginning of the film. It was even set up from the previous movie that they had. So it is such a masterclass on subverting expectations and bringing in a twist. They did that in Civil War. These Russos did that, right? They're able to pull that off. So trust me when I say there is going to be some trickery. There is going to be some mischief of some sort that's going to be happening here. And I'm looking forward to seeing what it is, right? It's really fun leading up to this and just learning a lot about it. Part of it is like, I'm curious to see what leaks have gone out that are completely false and completely fake, and what leaks were actually real, and what leaks are misdirection, and what they're able to keep a secret, and what are able to not keep a secret. It's awesome. It's really exciting for me. But anyways, in this shot and specifically, Thor mentions if we come back, right? Which is his idea that, hey, this is a mission where we may not make it back. And we're seeing Scott here with his daughter. We're also seeing in the previous scene, I think it was Human Torch hugging, I think, his sister. So it's this aspect of maybe at some point in the movie, people realize, hey, there's nothing we can do here. And they're potentially giving up hope, right? Whatever the case might be. Or this might be right before they head to the big fight and he's just hugging her. I do want to point out, though, that it's important that Paul is here with his daughter, because I think there is some familial themes that are going to be in this film as well. Some heavy familial themes that will happen. And I think that some of those unthinkable decisions will also involve family in some way. And so if you're able to bring in, those two themes and pull them together, man, like I'm saying, this is potentially going to be something of epic proportions, absolutely epic proportions, and I'm here for it. So yeah, you have these two hugging it out, and then you also have Storm and the Storms hugging it out. Yeah, right there. These are two Storms. I don't know which Storms they are. Although I guess Franklin is not a Storm; he's a Richard. If this is Franklin, that's him. I don't know who it is, but it looks like there's some flame in the background. He's protecting someone. I'm guessing it's Frankie, but it could also be his sister. But either way, something's going down. And I noticed that with the first explosion you saw at the beginning, that explosion happening looked very similar to this one. So it could be another incursion that's happening. Who knows? But like I said, we're waiting to see what happens when this movie comes out.
Return has brothers and sisters.
And brothers and sisters. Who do you see? The brother, and then you see the sister right there. Will return as brothers and sisters. Again, I'm telling you, they're everything they're doing is very, very, very intentional, and I love it. And they also know that we're going to be combing through this thing, like trying to pull everything out, and you can see that they're feeding little breadcrumbs, right? Okay, Sammy's back. Sammy's back. I love it. So I want to talk a little bit about this, which is that it looks as though the action for this movie is going to be top notch. I remember Civil War and the airport scene and how incredible that scene was as a fight scene. I remember Infinity War and how many amazing battles and fights were in that. Don't get me started with the end game, right? Or the end game of end. You know what I'm talking about. Like, there was just so much stuff, action within those movies. One of the biggest things that hurt Fantastic Four and that hurt what was that movie? Not Thunderbolts. Both of those movies is that they didn't have that much action in them, and specifically, one of the cornerstone of superhero stuff is the action. You have to have top-notch action because the action speaks to more things than one, and you can learn more from seeing something than from just hearing a character talk about it. There's something about the visuals and when the visuals are properly represented that just speak volumes about different things, right? And I don't want to get fully into it right now, and I don't have any videos queued up here to explain it. But if you guys want, I can do a video to kind of break down what I'm talking about in terms of how strong visuals are very important. And this movie, just from this trailer alone, which they're not going to show you everything, right? But just from this trailer alone, there's so much there in terms of the visuals that are going to be at their disposal and how they're going to execute upon them. Like, oh man, they've had like an extra year to work on the special effects for this, man. Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? Oh, it's gonna be nuts. Okay. Another crazy shot. You can see the Sentinel feet in the background. You can actually see them moving in this trailer, whereas with the other one, you couldn't really see them moving. But the other time that we've seen this shot, this is such. Oh man, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. They need to give, like, yeah. I do wish he had the yellow trunks specifically in this scene. It provides more contrast between the different parts of his suit, right? Uh, so I do wish that they do have the yellow trunks here or the yellow gloves. I think both together provide the needed contrast visually. But despite that, man, like, look at this shot, my dude. Look at this shot. It is incredible. It just looks so gorgeous. And then, like, man, I'm telling you, the the action in this film, because this is what they're showing us in a trailer. Imagine what they're holding back from us. Imagine what's made up, right? Because they also make up scenes as well in these trailers. So yeah, there's a lot coming here. It looks like she's fighting Namor for some reason, which again, this guy looks like a snake. He betrayed somebody here. Someone's been betrayed, and that's what's going on here. I can almost guarantee that's what's going on here. Is he betrayed them somehow? That's what's going on. I don't think I've heard any rumors surrounding this in terms of the spoilers for it. So I'll gladly say that's what's happened. That's my theory, I guess you could say. I haven't heard any spoilers surrounding him betraying them, but I definitely do think that's something that's happening.
My word.
Okay, hold on. Okay. Whew. Another perfect shot, man. Another perfect shot. This thing is shot so well. I'm telling you, they just the storyboarding process, they just had every single frame ready for you. I love comic movies that do such a great job with this aspect of things. It brings the comic book out of the comic book and into the screen in such an amazing way. uh, I like this. So back to what I was saying about philosophies, right, and themes. Doom is representing something in this film the same way that Thanos was representing something in his film. And I don't exactly know what that is yet, But I think it has something to do with what he said about making unthinkable decisions. It might be that he is willing to make the unthinkable decisions as others are not, and it's like those who are willing to make those unthinkable decisions will eventually win out. Maybe, I don't know, is that what they're trying to speak to? We don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see. But the clash between these two characters is, again, a clash between their ideologies in some fashion or form. This is an argument. This is an argument. The way boys do it in the yard. Fist fight argument. Anyways, let's go. Okay. I love that they cut quickly through things within this trailer, but they also take the time to linger, and they know when they should take the time to linger, and they do a good job on that. Right here, they linger in on Doom's face. You see the mask fully. It is absolutely perfect in terms of a Doom mask can be. Like it's man, it looks really good. And yeah, man, you get to see the eyes. They got the green eyes in there too. I mean, I don't know what else I can say. They pulled out all the stops and are really swinging for it here. I'm telling you that this thing is going to be an absolute juggernaut. Dune needs to move their date. They need to move it back a couple weeks. I'm serious. This is too much.
We're going to need a miracle.
Hey, pal.
Well, I do want to comment as well. What did he say when he was striking?
But mark my words. We're going to need a miracle.
Yeah, he says, "Mark my words, going to need a miracle." So yeah, he's just basically saying they're going to need the miracle, but with the "mark my words" miracle, showing Steve showing up, and they're trying to link out the speech as much as possible with the trailer. Man, yeah, I wonder if they were, as they were writing that, they were thinking up what the speech would be and stuff like that. But nonetheless, let's finish this off here.
Hey, pal.
It's not possible.
I don't know how many times I smiled. And here I am still smiling, seeing this. It's just, yeah, it's really solid. Okay, so I mean, yeah, that's it right there, man. That is the trailer. It is. Oh, hello. Hold on.
If I open the door, is it gonna be on camera?
Yes.
It's gonna be on camera?
Yeah, I'm live.
I know. I was watching.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you
Oh.
can tell.
Oh, okay. Well, no. My comments are, well, I don't have the comments up yet. I'm about to pull them up in a moment once I'm done with this. But yeah,
You're doing a great job.
thanks. Appreciate it.
Thought you're done.
No, I'm about to wrap it up. I just finished the trailer, and I want to get into a Matrix, but yeah, we'll see if I have time. A Matrix, yeah, theme Matrix.
Oh.
Yeah, it's gonna break down how themes work and you know why it's gonna make my case for why this is gonna rock as a movie.
You're such a nerd.
Yeah.
Wow. What? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I have to get my own water, right?
Oh, there's water right here.
No.
Oh, okay, hold on. Okay, hold on.
Babe, no. Hi, everyone. Bye, everyone. Okay, I'll leave you alone.
Okay, sorry. Okay, all right. That was the wonderful one. Okay, so, yeah. So back to this movie. So I'm gonna wrap this thing up here with my case as to why I think this movie is going to be incredible. And to do so, it's going to be following the theme of the stream, right? Which is The Russo's execution on themes and how good they are with them. Now, am I sharing window? I think I'm just sharing the window. So hold up, guys. Let me stop sharing for a sec. Let me pull up Canva. I'm gonna have to break this down visually. Pop, 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 pop. Okay, what will you design today? Create. Come on. Okay, let's do 1000 by 1000. Seriously? Okay. All right, so I'm going to share my Canva screen now that I pulled it up. All right, so here we go. Let's get into the matrix. So I'm going to create, let's go with tools. Let's do a line. So yeah. Perfect. So there's one line here, right? This line is going to represent your themes, or I should say your execution. So for this line, we'll just do that. And then I'm going to duplicate this. So Control D. Yep. And then we'll do this. Ah! Okay. So we got a matrix here, right? Your X and your Y. Okay. So for the X, it's going to be called execution. Execution. See what I did there? X, execution. Totally just thought of it right now. Okay, so this is your execution axis. And then on the other side, oh, come on, Canva. I'm going to have to make this a little, let's do that. Bam. Let's do E. E for execution, okay? So you have your execution on one side, and then you have your bloop themes on the other side, and the theme will be the T. So your y-axis will be your T, which I'll do it down here, okay? So at the bottom of the axis of your T, you have negative numbers, essentially, right? In the middle, you have 0, right? And at the top, you have, I don't know, 10 or something like that, right? On the left-hand side of your axis, you have what is 0, let's say, or negative numbers, sorry. In the middle, you have 0, right? And then at the far right of your matrix, you have the highest possible numbers, right? Now, with your film, you have movies that will be high in execution, right? So here, and high in themes. And what I mean by high in themes, I mean the themes themselves are very powerful and solid themes. These are the kinds of themes that are long lasting, that are generational, that span across time, right? These are epic themes. Now, these themes, when you execute upon them, it works because the theme itself is a true thing in reality, and it's something that you need to learn. So back to Civil War, when we were talking about Civil War, the thing that worked with that movie is it had a theme surrounding vengeance, where it was saying that vengeance is something that consumes you, right? And that you should run away from it. You should get over your petty squabbles, right? I might start using that line. Now, that is a strong theme. Now, what's an example of a poor theme? Let's just flip that theme around. Let's say vengeance is amazing, or vengeance is awesome, or you should always avenge, or, yeah, let's say you should always avenge other people, or you should always hold a grudge, whatever you want to call it, right? The opposite to that is what you would call a bad theme. Now, the thing about bad themes is that it's really, really hard to execute upon a bad theme. It's really hard. On top of it being really difficult to execute upon it, usually because the theme is so just done to begin with, you whatever you're building is likely going to be bad because the theme sucks, right? That's one aspect of things. So that's one thing. Now, on the other hand, your good themes are actually really easy to execute on. It's hard not to mess up. With great power comes great responsibility. The worst Spider-Man movies are still passable because of the fact that that theme that surrounds that character is as strong as it is. And the only way you can really mess it up is if you really veer away from what that theme is, right? With the character. So, with that said, that's what themes are, and the execution is basically like how you're communicating the theme. So this involves all of the media involved with communicating that theme. So the cinematography, the lighting, the special effects, the writing, all those different aspects involved in executing upon that theme are what the execution is. And from the trailer, at least, you can see sort of that type of the execution that's there. But also, the other thing is that from their past work, you can see how they tend to execute their themes. Is that they don't just have a single theme and then one character is going through an arc that is representing that theme. What they tend to do is they have one theme, they have multiple characters, and by they I mean the Russo brothers. They have multiple characters that are all surrounding that theme and are all interacting with it in different ways. And they've done that to a larger degree and a larger scale with each of their films. I think with this one, they're going to do it on this multiversal scale, essentially, of having different groups that are then interacting with that same theme in different ways. And that theme is strong enough to actually split apart some of those groups. Anyways, I digress. But the point I'm making here is that typically what you want to see from a movie, right, is this the draw thing? Let's do the color. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm not that used to Canva. Anyway, so is this working? It is not. That's the eraser. Perfect. So we'll do this. Blue. Blue's awesome. So what you typically want from a film is you want high execution and high themes, right? So that puts you right in this area. That's what you typically want from a movie. Now, sometimes what you'll get is you'll get a movie that will have a bad theme, let's say, but high execution, right? That's what you'll get over here, right? So this is a theme that, for example, or sorry, a movie, right, that will look amazing. Everything feels great. It looks right, but then there's just something about it that doesn't sit well. There's just something about it that's off, and you can't quite put your finger on it, but it just doesn't feel right. It's that kind of a movie. And typically, theme movies with really horrible or low themes but really well executed, in the moment you may like them because of the novelty of the thing, but over time what tends to happen is that you don't go back to it, and it has no lasting impact on your life, in that there isn't anything from the film itself that you're actually adopting into your day-to-day life. Because part of the thing is that you're not just watching this stuff, but a lot of the things that you're seeing from it, you're believing and you're acting upon it in some degree, some aspect, right? I mean, last time I checked, most people are not trying to get revenge on everyone because they've seen enough movies where the revenge route goes poorly, right? So that tends to happen. So when you have something like this where it's executed well with a bad theme, that happens all the time. And uh, there's a series I have called My Wife Made Me Watch, where I'll watch different shows or movies or something that she's like, hey, you gotta check this out. And one of those shows is Black Mirror. And one of some of the episodes within that series, again, I haven't seen all of them, right? But for some of the ones that I've seen, and I've been fed up with a lot of them, is that they tend to have excellent execution all the way up here, right? But the themes and how they deal with those themes are just so uh, they just don't work out, right? And ultimately, for some of the episodes, it absolutely ruins the episode. I have a video, my most recent video, I think, is talking about that. So that's an example of something that is super high in execution with a bad theme. Now, if you're looking at something else here, which is when you have something that is low execution, right, and low themes, this is typically what you do not want in your movie. You do not want this here. This is like Ghostbusters 2016. Themes are horrible, execution's horrible. This is just garbage movie. Just doesn't it just doesn't work out well, right? So that's what you get when you're in this territory. Whereas when you're in this territory, you could probably get a solid like 7 out of 10, right? 8 maybe. You can get into that range just because of the execution alone is really, really, really solid, right? Now, there's this part here, which is you can have a really good theme, right? But the execution is garbage. So let me just, yeah. So a really good theme with garbage execution. That's also a possibility in your movie, right? Or show or whatever it is that you're making. Now, usually, this is where almost every single superhero movie pre 2012 Avengers, and excluding the Nolan movies, was in this territory. The last Doctor Doom we would have seen, or not the last one, but the first Fantastic Four movie, this is a great example of where those movies hit, in that the themes themselves were high themes, right? They were very strong themes, but the execution was just really bad. Now, what you have with those kinds of movies is they end up becoming cult classics, right? Movies that you'll go back and watch, even though the acting's not that good, the writing's not that good, and it's because the themes themselves are so powerful and so strong, right, that they sort of transcend the execution of the film itself, which is showcases the importance of selecting really solid and strong themes. And because a lot of those stories are just taking it from the comic books, and comic books are typically written for younger people, and younger people need simpler, easier themes, that's where it translates. Now, where we have Doomsday here in this matrix is that I believe, based off of evidence that we have seen from this trailer and from the Russos, that these Avengers are actually in this quadrant here, right? So let me get some green in here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so let me get a thicker one right here. Let's get it green. More Doomsday green. Bam, there we go. So, boom, right here. So this is where I believe we're looking at Doomsday landing. So we'll do let's do it that way. So right now, based off of what I've seen from the trailer, Doomsday is in the quadrant we would want it to be in. And this is where we see the movie actually potentially being. So this is somewhere like an 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10, that kind of a thing. That's typically where what I'm expecting from what we've seen so far, just based upon the small hints of the themes that we've seen from the trailer, from both this trailer and also the previous 4 trailers that they had. When you combine all those together, they have really solid, strong, high themes that are generational, right? And that are really thought provoking. And then execution wise, they've had great execution throughout the years. So the range we have from Doomsday essentially is anywhere within this stratosphere here. Worst case scenario, it's like over in this territory, right? And it's still, a solid movie that you'll go back and rewatch potentially. And then best case scenario is we have one of the most epic movies released of all time, which is where I think we're headed. And that's where I'm going to end it here. So I'm going to close this matrix here. Let me see. Stop. Okay, perfect. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Doomsday, guys. I think I covered everything, at least from this trailer, and what we're looking at so far and what I'm looking for. Going forward now, I am doing some commentary on some shows. Specifically, I'm going through X-Men 97. What I'm doing is some scene by scene stuff, which is in the works, being edited, and that I'll be able to release at some point. I don't think YouTube is going to allow for me to release it, just because I'm literally watching the show and commenting on it. So I have to figure out a way to release it, but that's what I'm currently working on right now. Once I'm done working on that, then I'm going to get into some more Doomsday stuff in terms of some Road to Doomsday stuff. So yeah, we'll be talking about that as it comes. So feel free to like, comment, subscribe, right? If you're interested in this kind of stuff. I'm very much interested into it, obviously, and I take this stuff very seriously in the sense that there's something special about these stories. They matter for a reason. They don't make almost $1 billion movie over the course of 7 years because it's just nonsense, pure entertainment. There's something woven deep within these stories that requires attention to detail to pull it out. How long has this stream been going on? An hour and 40 minutes. I've been doing this thing for a 3-minute trailer. That's how much you can derive from just a 3-minute trailer. Imagine how much more from a film. Anyways, let me get into the comments in the chat. I have not been looking at the chat at all. So let me see what's here. I got a public chat. It says, oh, okay. Ha ha ha. Nice. Maybe a misdirection. Who is actually going to die? Okay. That would definitely be an interesting theme to play out. Okay. Thor is a great voice to narrate this trailer. I don't know other people we're sick of multiverses. They are cop-outs. Wow. Didn't know you like Cyclops so much. They're finally listening to the fans. No, they definitely are. Mirchentel. I cannot pronounce that name there, but yeah, they definitely are listening to the fans here, which I definitely appreciate. And I think that's the key factor here, is that this all started because of the fact that they were listening to the fans, and because of the fact that they were actually building something for them. And now this also almost ended because they stopped listening to the fans. And here they are back, and they're now listening to the fans again. So that's definitely the case. Definitely is. And man, I've been going at this for almost 2 hours. I'm gonna end the video here, clip it up. Hopefully, you guys have been able to receive something from this that's blessed you in some way. And I'm gonna end it off here. I got more stuff to edit, produce, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, with that said, this is your man Lex. There's no such thing as entertainment, and I'm out. Peace.